Now recording. Welcome everyone. Thank you for attending today's leadership session. It's the San Joaquin leadership session featuring today a couple of teachers from Historic Term Ferry, some students from Historic Term Ferry, Aspire Langston Hughes, and Health Careers Academy, I think. Welcome. Today we're featuring Lisa Becker. She is the sustainability consultant at KCOE Isom. KCOE Isom is an ag-focused accounting firm, and interesting name. With that, we went through a similar session yesterday, but Lisa, if you don't mind, would you remind us, or remind me rather, what is KCOE Isom and like the history of the name, etc.
Sure, happy to. Hi, everyone. My name's Lisa Becker. Thank you so much for joining us today. So yes, I work for KCOE Isom. We are an accounting and consulting firm that specializes in food and agriculture. The name comes from, like many accounting firms, the founding members. And so we actually underwent a merger a few years back with Kennedy & Co. and Matson & Isom, which was combined to create KCOE Isom. So the firms were originally based out of Northern California and Kansas. And since then, we've expanded and are now a national firm doing work both domestically and internationally.
Excellent. Thank you so much. With that, let's go ahead and go through a round of introductions. I'm Joseph Montoya. I am the Farms Leadership Coordinator for the San Joaquin region. And we'll go ahead and go through students now. Let's go ahead and begin with Owen. We're going to go real crazy doing men first. Just a little bit of shake up there. Owen, if we can give you or get your first name. I know we already know your first name, but your name, your school, your class, and post-high school plans.
Hi, I'm Owen. I'm a sophomore at Historic Term Ferry, and I'm not completely sure about post-high school plans yet, but planning on going to college.
Excellent. Do you have any schools in mind?
I don't yet. I've started looking into some of the UC Davis schools, actually from the last farm field trip thing that we did that kind of got me interested in some of them. So I've been kind of thinking about those and then just some of the other schools, or I thought of going into the military. I'm not completely sure yet.
Terrific. Thank you so much. How about we continue with Hannah?
Hi, I'm Hannah Bethards. I go to Aspire Langston Hughes Academy. I'm a senior and I'll be attending William Jessup University in the fall for mathematics.
Awesome. Thank you so much. How about we have Jocelyn?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Corrales. I attend Aspire Langston Hughes Academy. I am a junior, and for post-high school, I think I am going to University of the Pacific and majoring in biology.
Excellent. Right. How about we have Jada?
I'm Jada. I attend Historic Term Ferry. I'm a junior in my post-high school plans. I'm not sure yet.
Terrific. That's why we're here. And how about Jenna now?
I'm Jenna. I'm a junior at Historic Durham Ferry, and I'm not sure about post-high school plans yet.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so I see we have a camera from Jennifer. If we can go ahead and go along the lines, is that a possibility? Can we do that? Okay.
Okay, we're all here at the school currently. So I'm Josie Anderson. I'm a senior here at Historic Durham Ferry. As far as my post-college plans, I want to study animal science at MJC and then hopefully transfer to Fresno State.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Josie.
We have 2 other students here.
Perfect. Thank you.
and Ben's over there. I'm gonna bend down. I'm Amelia. I'm a junior here at Historic Durham Ferry, and for post high school plans, I plan to go to MJC and then hopefully transfer it to Texas A&M.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josie.
Hi, I'm Emily Kroll. I'm a senior at Durham Ferry. My post high school plans are to follow Josie to MJC to do animal science things and then hopefully transfer to UC Davis to get my veterinary licensing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, Michelle Lopez, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Could we
Yeah,
have
sorry.
her, like, camera? Yeah, that'll do.
Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a senior at Health Careers Academy, and my post-secondary plans for high school is either food science at UC Davis or nursing.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Michelle. You know what? If we can go ahead and have the teachers as well, let's go ahead and do that. Tanya, if you may.
Hi, everybody. My name is Miss Tanya, and I am a science educator at Langston Hughes Academy here in Stockton, California.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll wrap up with Joanne.
Hi, I'm Joanne, one of the high school teachers at Durham Ferry.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and proceed and get just right into a little bit of your background, Lisa. You know, let me go ahead and pull up the presentation. Bear with me just 1 second. Okay, cool. Can everybody see my screen? Terrific. I'm gonna make this big. Let's go and check out the chat. Okay. When
Perfect. Thank you so much for pulling it up. And just so everyone knows, I had major computer issues earlier this week, which is why Joseph is being so kind as to present this for me and why I look like I'm not looking at you all. I promise I am. My camera's just up high since my laptop's been a little funky. But thank you again for joining. During the few minutes we have together here, I wanted to talk a little bit about my path in finding my career within food and agriculture and talk a little bit about some lessons learned, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'll kind of start out in my timeline where you guys are at currently. In high school is really when I first got interested in sustainability. And I took a class, it was environmental science, as a junior in high school. And that really piqued my interest in all of the different environmental impacts that could happen as a result of how we do business and how we make purchases and all the decisions we kind of make in life. So from that class, I decided that was the career I wanted to pursue, doing something with sustainability. And so I attended Cal Poly. And for those of you that are familiar with that school, they require you to declare your major before you get there. And so I started out at Cal Poly as an environmental management major and found out pretty soon into my coursework that it was heavily focused on forestry And a lot of individuals in my class were aspiring to be firefighters and to do work out in the field surveying trees. And that was a little bit different than my interest in sustainability. So I ended up interviewing a bunch of alumni that had come out of the program to get an understanding of the types of jobs that they were in and see if those were kind of career paths that I would be interested in. So after having those conversations, I decided that the major wasn't actually going to land me in the type of job that I was looking for. So I kind of went back to the drawing board, decided to major in business because that was another interest of mine, and became an accountant. I studied accounting my last couple of years in school, got my master's in accounting. And before I knew it, I was a tax accountant working on tax returns. And I was working for one of the big 4 accounting firms down in San Diego. And once I got there, I realized that culture matters so much in the company that you're working in. And the culture that was a part of that company at the time was one of those where everyone kind of aspired to be in a position down the road and were using this kind of as a stepping stone to get the experience they needed to get there, which kind of created a culture of kind of putting in your time, so to speak, to get to that next step in their career. And this was the point where I was kind of questioning everything, where I enjoyed doing tax returns because I was good at them. But from a fulfillment perspective, I had so many questions as far as whether or not that was a career that I would be happy in long term, and whether or not I felt like I was making a difference and making the world a better place by the kind of day-to-day tasks I was working on. So I ended up starting to search for another job, and that's when I got introduced to KCOE Isom. I actually ended up having some family friends that were clients of the company that recommended them to me. And at first, I honestly didn't think too much of it. I was looking to work for a really large company, and KCOE at the time was relatively small. But I ended up having a conversation with some of the recruiters and decided that not only was I interested in working for a company that focused on food and ag, but also I realized that they had a sustainability consulting branch within their company. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me, learning that there's this kind of business approach to sustainability where you can help companies figure out their sustainability strategies from more of a consulting perspective than a science perspective. And so that is kind of my windy route to get where I am today.
Thank you. So Lisa, I actually already have a question. So you mentioned changing majors and you went to Cal Poly. You had said that most of the sort of coursework was more directed towards firefighting, forestry, that sort of avenue. What was like your initial plan, or what had you thought you were getting into? And also, has that changed? Like, are you happy that, you continued, or has there been any shifts since then? Like, did you learn anything there that like informed your decision on, or now?
Yep, that's a great question. So when I was in high school applying to college and starting out, I didn't know exactly what job specifically I was looking for. I just knew I wanted to work in sustainability. But back then, that was like 10 or so years ago, sustainability wasn't quite as prevalent as it is now. And so there weren't as established career paths within sustainability. And so some of the things I was looking at as a freshman was like environmental law, but then I wasn't sure if I really wanted to get that technical, because I do really like working with people, and I wasn't sure if that would be too much kind of research and analysis. And the types of jobs that I was hearing from alumni were more focused on utility companies. Surprisingly, there were some individuals that were working for like state and local water boards and dealing with environmental issues from that perspective. And what I was really looking for was something where I got to touch multiple organizations and help them with sustainability in some fashion. And so that was kind of the ultimate decision point to change majors.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another thing, and I think we could probably describe this more in detail later, but you were mentioning that KCOE Isom, was a relatively small, but has since grown. I don't know if you'd want to describe that later, like, in what avenues that they've grown. But, first off, the fact that they have grown since you starting in what year, if I may ask?
Sorry, I started in 2016
Okay. Oh, at KCOE Isom?
at KCOE Isom, yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, so you've been there for a while. Terrific. Another thing is, let's see, just a mention to the students that are attending this, that given some of the new policy objectives and initiatives and agendas of our current president, something that's come up, super relevant, current, but should be thought provoking for the future, is that environmental justice is one of the current president's main agendas. And so the fact that, already Lisa Becker and KCOE Isom has experienced growth, I think is an indicator that not only is this something that, as she mentioned, was small to begin with, just 10 years ago, but is on track to continue to grow and have support and from a governmental level. So I would recommend keeping that in mind for those of you who don't have a specific directive already or intention with your schooling, but also even if you do, keep that in mind, I would say.
Yeah, and to that point, one of the major trends I've seen just in my time in the working world is the huge shift from compliance related work to consulting work. So with technology being such a wonderful tool in helping us automate a lot of processes, and this is true across every industry, a lot of the jobs related to compliance or rule-based work is getting more and more, utilized by the technology and AI that can do those tasks. And a lot of the workforce is then shifting into consulting around those areas. And so that's a big shift we've seen within our company, and that I think we'll continue to see as technology continues to advance. So when you're looking for career paths, a great way to kind of frame it in your mind is, what can I do that a computer can't do? And how do I bring this extra level of decision making and innovation to a particular job?
Such an excellent segue with the mention of career paths.
Yeah, so I love this picture, and it made me laugh because it's totally my life, and I'm sure a lot of people on the call might already be able to identify with this. So I'm a big planner. I always have plan A, B, and sometimes C and D, and life rarely looks anything remotely like a straight line. And I found that with my path, even though I've had so many plans of where I wanted to be and where I could end up, I'm in a job that I would have never expected and couldn't be happier. So I definitely want to impress upon all of you that there's so much strength and value in deciding that what you're currently doing isn't what you want to do and changing. Don't ever be afraid to not take that risk. There's lots of opportunities that might not present themselves until you're a couple years into your profession or a couple years down the road. And just being open to that, having conversations with people you trust and admire about different opportunities that are out there for you is just a great way to make sure that you are exploring every avenue that is out there.
Excellent. Yeah, to build on that is the whole squiggly line. You look at this one, you're like, okay, that is easiest and fastest and most direct, and usually the most paved. And something that something that can be considered when going out for any job is, what is unique about you, and what do your experiences and your specific skills bring to your workplace? How are you unique? What makes you special? That extra, what more can you bring than the average, your competition? And, these sort of jagged bits and even these sort of winding trails really add dimension to your ability. And if you're able to communicate those in your interviews, I think that's very, very important. Because if you're considering this path, you're looking at a ton of like something that's already paved, and a ton of people have already gone down that path. And so when you have this, you're not, going to be ending up with a lot of unique abilities on your end, because a lot of people are in that same sort of have that same exact experience. And, that equates to being a dime a dozen. And in general, most employers aren't looking for a dime a dozen. Everyone wants something special, and everyone wants, someone unique that brings something different to their workforce. And so, what happens here is a lot of that character development and specific skills development and experiences that can inform your decisions moving forward. So, well, as this one looks okay, great. I just want to get from here to there. Really appreciating these two is ultimately going to help you secure whatever job or career that you're looking for, because you will have gone through unique experiences that will make you a better fit for anyone else, and that instead of someone who's just gone from here to there and doesn't have anything new to bring.
Mm-hmm. And I would also say too, before we move on to the next one, how important soft skills are when you are in a career, any kind of career where you're interacting with teams and people. It's so important to have great communication, professional communication, ways to handle conflict or disagreements within work. Those are all things that you learn with experience, but along the way, there's so many opportunities to kind of build those skills as you're first starting out, and that will launch you leaps and bounds ahead of others that might be looking for a similar job. If you are able to kind of sell yourself on that emotional intelligence that you have and how you're able to interact and support team members, that's something that employers look for and that they highly value. And it's hard to teach if it's not something that an individual is aware of. So as you're kind of working on jobs in high school and internships, I highly recommend you focus on building those soft skills and practicing those, because it will definitely serve you well throughout your career.
Soft skills, yes. Things that can't be directly taught in the classroom necessarily, but things that you pick up along the way. Thank you.
So before I move into talking a little bit about what sustainability means for the food and ag industry, are there any questions?
You can type in the chat box or just go and unmute yourself and move forward. I think looks like we're all good. Also in the future, yeah, go ahead and feel free to type in the chat box if you have questions anywhere along the way. I think we're good. I think we're good.
Perfect. So I have always been interested in food and agriculture, kind of tied to my interest in just being outdoors and in nature and how close the industry is to the earth and what that means as far as environmental impacts and social impacts. So this diagram is a good example of kind of what the food system looks like. Typically, my work deals with production and processing. So those first two pieces of the sphere. And then we kind of come in as consumers in that green area. And then what happens after that is really focused on the waste perspective of sustainability. So this I just thought was a good diagram of all the different pieces of the food supply chain that we have to think about when we think about sustainability for food and agriculture. So these are some of the kind of top examples that came to mind in terms of the different areas of sustainability we're talking about for food and ag. Environmental is usually one of the first kind of sets of topics that come to mind when you think about sustainability. And in agriculture, of course, one of the most critical environmental topics is water use and quality. And for all of you in California, this is something that, we hear about constantly in the news and as part of policy. Water is just such an important and critical part of our lives as citizens, as well as our food system. Greenhouse gas emissions are continually addressed, especially with the new administration. There's been a lot of conversations about carbon markets, and there is a potential opportunity for farmers to explore generating carbon credits through soil and carbon sequestration. And so that's something we work with clients on and help them navigate. Overall soil health as well, so making sure that there's no issues as far as erosion and that the nutrient quality is high in the soil. And then anytime you're dealing with land, especially land with kind of native areas around it, we're looking at wildlife protection, preserving habitat, making sure that biodiversity is supported, given that ag is typically a monoculture. So those are the types of environmental impacts we look at. There are many, many more, but those are the kind of the top few, I would say, that first come to mind. The second area, social sustainability, is really a key area we've seen since COVID and even before that, but really COVID brought so much media around the need for protection around worker health and safety in food and agriculture. There's been a lot of negative media about health and safety at food processing plants and how workers are treated to make sure that they have enough space and enough protective equipment to make sure that they're not getting COVID while they're coming to work. And that's something that we work with companies on. Human rights is such a critical and serious area of social sustainability. On the international scale, that can be forced labor, child labor, and a lot of these issues do happen in the US as well. We're looking at discrimination and harassment in the workplace. And those are all areas covered under the large umbrella of human rights. And it's something that we look at from the processing and production operation in the food chain all the way up to make sure that human rights are protected. Working conditions, both in processing plants and out in the fields and orchards, that's focused on kind of fair wages and working hours and overtime, and making sure that all the legal requirements are met there, as well as any additional requirements that are kind of coming from consumers and customers who are really focused on making sure that workers are treated well in that perspective. And then the last big category there is community impacts. So how is a farming or processing operation impacting the community around it for better or for worse? So making sure that with all the chemical applications going on, that there's no impacts to air quality or water quality, as well as all the great work that a lot of ag companies are doing to support the communities in which they work. I would say largely the food and ag industry is very philanthropic and very generous. And so there's a lot of good work being done that we kind of help our clients communicate. And then the last bucket here, economic, is kind of what you'd expect in terms of that kind of essential financial health of a business. So making sure you're profitable and that your business is running efficiently, that you're mitigating risk in all of these categories. And from a business ethics perspective, of course, following the law and making sure that your operation is ethical. So these are just some examples to give you all an idea of kind of the breadth of topics that we cover in sustainability. It's really looking at the holistic health of an organization and making sure that processes are in place and that the company is able to measure their performance so they can provide positive change.
If I may ask, going back to that first bit right there, what is the importance of wildlife protection and biodiversity in this whole, bit, and how, best can we affect that in your experience?
Yeah, it's a great question. So an example that stands out in California, and I mean many other places as well, is protecting pollinators. Pollinators are so essential to our food source, and the almonds up in Northern California and in the Central Valley are pollinated by bees. And so what can happen is if the bees don't have adequate food, water, habitat, there's certain chemicals, of course, that are very hazardous to bees. There's a lot of research and programs in place to kind of outline what those hazardous activities are to make sure that bees are protected, especially in that critical time period of pollination when they're out and about. So many farmers are well aware of the importance of bees and how to protect them. And that's something that kind of we look at and communicate then to our clients, customers, and consumers about how bees and other pollinators are protected throughout the ag supply chain. Another example too is with the monarch migration path. That goes through a lot of farmland, and there have been issues in the past with the monarchs not having enough habitat to be able to make their migration path. And so there are so many farmers that have done a great job utilizing the non-productive areas of their land to put in like milkweed and other pollinator plants that they can then use as habitat and create those like stepping stones across so that they can do their migration path.
I'm so glad that you brought up the monarch butterflies. Those in particular were a point of focus for one of our more recent field days with the Plant Material Center in Lockford, California. That they'd say that it's a huge issue that the monarch butterfly population has been declining for a while, and that's been one of the major issues. Is that agriculture has stepped up and made an impact there. But a holistic way a more organic way of fixing that and helping is utilizing that. And as a matter of fact, all of these students had received packets of milkweed in order to plant so that they could help regrow the monarch butterfly population.
That's awesome.
So yeah, just had to add that.
Mm-hmm. So we definitely don't need to go into this slide in detail at all, but just wanted to give you all kind of an idea of the different types of projects that we do within sustainability. In summary, it really is helping companies identify which topic areas to focus on. So of everything on that last slide, what's most critical? Where do we need to focus immediately? How do we measure our performance on those different topics? Helping to build policies and procedures to support those areas and make sure that all the practices are in place to maintain sustainability, as well as helping companies with their sustainability reporting, driving change through goal setting and benchmarking, and then lastly, helping with sustainability audits. So with all the sustainability data now available, we're now starting to see a significant push for that information to be verified. So it's great if you say you reduced your greenhouse gas emissions by 30%, but now people want to see the numbers and want to make sure that that's calculated correctly, that that is in fact true. So we also help with those types of services.
Excellent, excellent. And yes, sorry, we've gone a little bit over time. This is a session was supposed to only be from 1 to 1:30. It's now 1:35. Is just flew by. Thank you for everyone for being here. Is there any questions from any students or teachers? I don't want to take too much of your time, Lisa. Sorry. I know you're
that's okay.
busy.
I want to ask a question if there aren't any students that are asking now, but how does a student get involved with a work such as yours? What would you recommend to a high schooler right now, maybe past the COVID time, but even currently to do what steps to make to kind of maybe get some experience and make those, gain experience in that area?
Yeah, so I would say there's so many sub areas within sustainability, and there's lots of opportunities to get involved with organizations that specialize in a given area. So for instance, there's a lot of work being done with food waste right now and packaging, and working for a company or volunteering with a company that's focusing on that would be such a great opportunity. As far as programs, I'm sure there's programs in the summer that are related to sustainable agriculture, especially being in California, we're just surrounded by so much farmland. So I would say just reach out locally and see what kind of organizations are in your area, because there's so many people working on these different sustainability initiatives right now. And if you need any ideas of some of the additional kind of topics or areas you could potentially be focusing in, I'm happy to kind of provide a list of examples.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Anything, Joanne, Hannah, Michelle, Jana, Jada, Jennifer, Owen, Jocelyn? Nothing. Okay. Oh, yes. So given that, my question before about how KCOE Isom has been expanding and growing since you first started, are there any plans? Have you heard of any plans for KCOE Isom to continue to expand? Where and how and what? Do you have any personal wants to see of your company? You feel the fact that, you started when it was so small, you have really had an impact on, probably driving change and, agenda setting, etc. So, you have, because when you're working in a smaller shop, you do have that much closer ability to impact what happens next. And, in general, I think, all of that. Sorry.
I'll try to answer it. Yes, we are continuing to expand, particularly looking at growing our consulting services. And again, with the change in administration, with all of the pressure around sustainability from both like a worker health perspective and a climate change perspective, there's just so much going on. So we definitely are continuing to see higher and higher demand for people who are kind of realizing the importance of this, if not for their own intrinsic value, for their customers and consumers who are wanting to know that progress is being made in this space. So I'm really excited. It's a fun time to be working in sustainability and working in agriculture. So yeah, I think the growth will continue, and I'm looking forward to it.
Terrific. Are there any in particular ways that you want to see it grow? I don't know, what the procedure is, how it works, but.
Yeah, so I would say there's a lot of clients that we work with more of our traditional services, and I'd love to bring our sustainability services to them, because there is so much benefit and value derived from focusing on sustainability initiatives. And yeah, I would just say continuing to expand across the US and even globally as we continue to work with more farming operations and food companies.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good place to end this. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to jump in right now. Shaking heads. Well, anyway, terrific. Thank you everyone so much for joining today's session. Thank you to Aspire Langston Hughes, Health Careers Academy, and Historic Durham Ferry, and of course, most of all, our guest, Lisa Becker of KCOE Isom. I don't know, it's Friday. Beautiful day. I hope it's beautiful where you all are too. I'm seeing blue skies and not some crazy winds like there were earlier this week. But thank you so much, everyone. And I don't know, have a good Friday and enjoy your weekends. Bye.
I'm gonna go plant some milkweed now. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.